Now, MI5's chief has accused WhatsApp and its parent company Facebook of handing a gift of end-to-end encryption to terrorists and paedophiles. Ken McCullum, Director General of MI5, singled out WhatsApp's chief exec for criticism and called for new powers to force social media companies to make secret messages available in cases of exceptional threat. He was warned that Britain must take ownership of their toxic issue of racism and not seek to blame foreign troll farms for their vile abuse meted out to England's footballers online. Joseph Cotry-Monson is the editor of the textbooks Cybercrime, Law and Practice. Editor of the... I tell you what, Joseph, you tell me what you're editor of.
Well, now you're going to get me to show off, Ian.
I am. Go on.
I'm the editor of the current edition of Cybercrime, Law and Practice, which is a legal textbook.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah, it was the hyphen in there that threw me, you see. Listen, good to have you with us, Joseph. Nice to speak. So listen, I mean, one of the big things when WhatsApp and Facebook announced that, this was end-to-end encryption was that people felt, well, this is great. We're nice and safe. We haven't got big business and Silicon Valley or anyone else snooping on our text. So it was a good sell from their perspective, but of course there are implications.
There are, and actually the funny thing, Ian, is it's probably the truth is the opposite. First of all, WhatsApp, it's fair to say, has always been end-to-end encrypted. It's Facebook's moves to do the same, which are worrying intelligence chiefs. But it's interesting. Those are private messages. They are end-to-end encrypted, certainly on WhatsApp. But you will know if you have a WhatsApp and a Facebook account that information is shared in order to sell you things. So they will show you adverts based on what you send in those messages. They just won't show them to law enforcement.
Indeed.
It's quite interesting. Sorry, go on.
And well, I was going to just say on that point, I mean, do they literally refuse to say, no, you can't see this? Or have they got no ability to show you?
They have, and they do, and they have. And actually, in the context of the US 3, 4, and 5 years ago, even, there have been several high-profile requests and real discontent among very senior American politicians and members of the cabinet that have been voiced that when it comes to law enforcement, WhatsApp historically, it's been a flat no. And the reason for that is, cynically, is actually commercial, because this isn't a question of if we get the WhatsApp messages, then all of a sudden, that will mean that we'll have all the information that criminals exchange with each other. The reason for that is that criminals would just use something else. Don't forget that it was only quite recently, in the context of COVID secrecy contract giving allegations involving the Tory party, that it was disclosed that many MPs in the ruling party currently have a Signal account. Now, Signal, it would be wrong to say it's a murky app, but it's an app which prides itself on its ability to not only send, to enable people to send encrypted messages, just like WhatsApp, but also for those messages to have a timeout where they're deleted after a certain amount of time at both ends. Okay. It's also important, I think, Ian, to not exaggerate the extent to which this is significant if you're not an MI5 chief, right? Because the police already can crack phones. They can send them off to European companies that specialize, and they can pretty much get into everything. Criminal lawyers will tell you, as they have to tell their clients. It's not as simple as saying, well, I won't give my PIN and then the police won't know what's on there. But they also have, there are also powers under the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, RIPA, which require somebody who owns a mobile phone to disclose the PIN if it's requested formally from a member of the state, the police. But so if mobile handsets are available, this isn't really an issue. So we're talking about something really quite sophisticated and really involving governments spending money on big investigations to find out very specific stuff. But there is, having said that, and I think it's important that we remind ourselves of this, there is a difference, isn't there, between privacy and confidentiality on one hand and snooping on the other.
Yeah.
Because we all like the principles of privacy and confidentiality, don't we? We expect it of our friends when we have conversations, when we exchange messages one to one. Certainly something as a criminal lawyer that my clients rightly expect from me. There's clearly a balance, but it's important to remember the government does not have an automatic right to know what you're up to. If you and I meet privately and whisper to each other, there is no guarantee, there is no right of the government for us to disclose what we whisper to each other. Question then is, if we do it virtually, do they have any greater right?
Yeah, and that's the question, isn't it? And I suppose with this, maybe what's confusing to many of us, Joseph, is when they talk about end-to-end encryption, I mean, what do they mean by that? I mean, if you got hold of a terrorist phone and you managed to get in it, you'd be able to read their WhatsApp messages.
Once you're in it, you're in it. I mean, that is the point. This is about when they don't have access to handsets or highly sophisticated handsets or messaging systems. You'll remember perhaps the EncroChat scandal, where there was a company selling very specific hardware mobile phones that criminals became enamored with over a period of time. And of course, EncroChat gets hacked, then it's all out. Actually, they probably would have been better at WhatsApp. I'm not advocating that you do criminal activities on WhatsApp.
No, I get it. I hear what you say. I love hearing what you say, Joseph. It's always great to have you on with us. Thank you. Joseph Cotry-Monson, who is, of course, director at Mary Monson Solicitors and editor of the textbook Cybercrime, Law and Practice, with us here on Talk Radio.